It is my honor now to introduce Ambassador Stuart Laing, who is Master of Corpus Christi College here at the University of Cambridge and is also a Deputy Vice Chancellor of the university. He will speak on behalf of the university and greet us all on behalf of the university. Please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am not as brave as Abdulaziz, and I have got 16 pages, which I'm going to use in speaking to you. Actually, there are only 6, and they're half pages. But nevertheless, there are some things that I think it is important to say. Not for the first time, I have the honor to stand before you today in order to send greetings from Professor Sir Leszek Borisevich, the Vice-Chancellor. He is currently away and unable to be present, but has asked me to speak to you on his behalf and on behalf of the University of Cambridge. I should explain also that the Vice-Chancellor stands down next month after a highly successful 7-year tenure. His place will be taken by Professor Stephen Tuke, who will bring great distinction to this important post in British higher education. So, in my capacity as a Deputy Vice-Chancellor of the University, I welcome you all to the 8th GRM. Cambridge is delighted and honoured to be the venue of this event, now a regular and important feature in the academic calendar. I also have the honour to speak as a trustee of the Gulf Research Centre, Cambridge, the charitable company which is behind the Gulf Research meeting. Our welcome extends to you, the scholars, policy officials, and specialists who will participate in the workshops of the GRM, and also to the keynote speakers and to the several special guests who are attending. We quite understand why His Excellency Major General Dr. Abdulatif Azayani, the Secretary General of the GCC, is not able to be here, but I'm confident that we shall nonetheless have a stimulating opening session. We are very glad to see you all here this afternoon and for the few days of the meeting. In previous years, I have said, while addressing the GRM opening session, that those of us who follow Middle Eastern affairs have sadly become accustomed to an almost perpetual atmosphere of crisis. I have also remarked that, in this part of the world, crisis can too easily turn into confrontation, confrontation into conflict, and conflict into catastrophe. A year after I last said this, referring to the disastrous conflicts in Iraq, Syria, Libya, and Yemen, and other areas of tension with their own, if less significant, losses of life, the situation has improved only marginally. That is, the intensity of the fighting in Syria and Iraq has faded somewhat. But the level of international tension, with maintained and even increasing confrontation between the US and Russia, remains threatening to us all. And the scale of the humanitarian crisis is unrelieved. We look at the huge numbers of casualties in Arab countries in the region, every one of which represents a personal and family tragedy. But on top of that, consider the vast numbers of people who have fled their homes or who have been forced into becoming refugees from their countries. And consider also the profound effect that the arrival of these refugees has on the countries who have taken them in. We who are lucky enough to live in peace in Western Europe can hardly begin to imagine this. Of course, the Gulf is not the stage on which these terrible dramas are being played out, but the Levant and North Africa have their connections with the Gulf, and Gulf governments and business people have a range of interests all across the Arab world. And meanwhile, Gulf governments have introduced their own brand of tension-raising. Recent political maneuvering is putting in peril the stability and interstate friendship that has for so long been provided by the Gulf Cooperation Council and its network of connections, political, social, and commercial. I echo the hopes of Abdulaziz that they will find ways of resolving this tension and finding new ways of living helpfully and positively and peacefully with each other. You will all have your own views on these events, and I don't think you'd expect me to take one side or the other from this podium. But all this reminds us why a conference such as the Gulf Research Meeting is so important. It recognizes implicitly that through improved understanding of the economics, politics, and social affairs of the Middle East in general, and the Gulf in particular, we may improve the chances of finding ways out of the sad circumstances in which several Arab societies and communities find themselves today. Informed analysis of problems is usually the preliminary to identifying solutions, even if we recognize that those solutions will in several cases take years to implement. And despite what I have just said about tension within the GCC, I repeat what I have said before. The countries of the Gulf are not without problems. Which of us is? Here in Britain, we also face a few. Gulf countries, operating from generally solid foundations in their societies and government structures, are well placed to play constructive roles in assisting sister communities in the Arab world to identify the paths to peace and cooperation, and then to reconstruction, or to reform and to return to prosperity. "No man is an island," wrote the English poet John Donne. "Globalization is a self-evident truth. We who live in Europe or North America, whether we are individuals or representing businesses or governments, we depend on trade and the other historical, personal, and political connections that we have with so many in the Arab world. We are motivated, therefore, by interest, but also by affection, in wishing to see Arab societies living peaceably with one another and ourselves, so that we can deal easily across borders and live in mutual prosperity. So it is that we from outside the region, as well as those who live within it, benefit from expanding and deepening our knowledge and understanding of issues affecting Gulf countries and their neighbors. Press, radio, and television report incessantly on Middle East regional events, and their eyes go to experts such as you to provide coherent analysis of problems and possible solutions. And why? Partly because events do not allow us to stand still, but also because issues and problems in the Middle East affect us all. So, your studies of the Gulf region carry global importance. Your agenda covers not only the problems, but also the strengths of Gulf economies and societies, and the potential of their human and other resources. You are standing in the present, but looking to the future. Outcomes from this meeting bring value to many. We are praying for rain over the next few days to keep you focused on your seminar rooms and away from the temptations of outdoor Cambridge. Before closing, I should like to give a few words of thanks and congratulations. First, to those who have sponsored this and previous, and we hope future, Gulf Research meetings. As Oscar pointed out, they're conveniently listed on the screen behind me. Thanks go to those who are taking the lead at your workshops, but also to the staff of the GRC, mostly in their offices in Geneva and Jeddah, and those who support them here in Cambridge, who work tirelessly to ensure a perfectly run conference. I congratulate those who have contributed to the now very impressive list of publications, books, articles, papers, and e-books which have been created out of the Gulf Research Meeting. Most especially, we thank Dr. Abdulaziz Al-Sakar, chairman of the Gulf Research Center, who has been the driving force of the Gulf Research Meeting and is generous supporter in so many ways. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish your endeavors at the 8th Gulf Research Meeting every success.